Okay, sure. Welcome to the Film Producing 101 panel. If you have a piece of paper and a notebook, it might be a good idea to pull it out, simply because we don't have anything to give you guys. We're going to introduce the table from, I guess, me and on over. My name is Justin McConnell. I'm a director-producer from Toronto. My background is I made a bunch of short films, then I made a very low-budget feature horror film called The Collapsed that was put out in 12 countries by companies like Anchor Bay, Lionsgate, etc. I've got a new documentary called Skull World, and I'm shooting a movie with Michael Biehn at the end of this year called The Eternal. So passing the mic on down.
Hey, I'm Matt. I'm excited to hear about The Eternal, just because last year you were talking about it. That's good news. Yeah, my name's Matt Waterworth. I am a producer with Full Swing Productions. My co-producer Scott Westby here, and we make lots of fun stuff like short films and web series, and we've got a couple of other things cooking. I just wanted to let you guys know we are going to be doing some Q&A as well. But if you want to shoot us a tweet, you can do it that way as well at Full Swing Prod, and I'll read it if you're like nervous, because we're all geeks and we all have social anxiety, I'm sure. So yeah, I'll pass it on to Scott.
Hello. Hi, I'm Scott, co-producer with Matt at Full Swing Productions. Producer-director in town. I've been doing it for almost a decade now, actually. And yeah, short films, web series, got a couple of features in development, and looking forward to answering questions.
Hey there, I'm Jason Bemmel. I've done some film and theater production and directing specifically in theater. I did a YouTube film, Dr. Horrible Prelude, basically. And then I'm also a part of Todd Kipp's a couple films like Computer Potato and, oh crap, I'm blanking on the other name. Computer Potato 2. Computer Potato 2 or Work in Progress. I'm also here producing some comics over in the exhibitor hall, Fight Comics. So you can ask me about that after the show.
Hey guys, I'm Scott Lepp. I got my start in the entertainment industry as a news and sports reporter, a journalist, and I made a documentary while I was doing that, and then just kind of caught the bug, so that's what I've been doing ever since. And I spent the last 6 years working on the local shot TV series Heartland under the producers, so that's what I've been doing since.
So I guess just to start things out, just as a show of hands, who in this room has actually made a short or a film or anything like that? Okay, good. And out of those people, just out of curiosity, how many of them have had, say, the short either in some kind of, or film in some kind of distribution or a film festival or anything like that? Okay, great. So we're going to kind of speak to you guys as well as the people who are fresh sort of to producing. And I think the first thing I'd like to say is the best thing you can do is just to read and research and watch movies and sort of immerse yourself in that world. Get to know filmmakers, befriend filmmakers, use Facebook and Twitter. Just like dive in head first and learn as much as you can, because even Peter Jackson is still learning. Even all these big directors, every day they're still trying to learn and better their craft. So don't sit back and think that you're waiting for your big break. You have to make that big break come to you. So that's the first common sense rule, is just work, and research and learn.
Yeah, do it. There's not a lot stopping us anymore. Film, it doesn't have to be your route anymore, which is very expensive. You can really get a movie done for pretty cheap. I was just screening a movie my friend made called Give It Up, and it's not the highest production value, but he did it. It's a feature-length film, and he made it on $150 on a little DSLR. So it's it's not the best, but it's a great place to start, and it was a great way for him to learn as he went about it. So yeah, just get it done.
Producers kind of have a bad rap, I think, personally. Everyone kind of thinks of a producer and they think of the, sort of the fat cat in the suit with the big cigar, which is probably true for most of it, but definitely not in Canada. I hear people all the time saying we should just kind of do away with producers and get producers out of the film industry, and which is funny because then they're making themselves the producer. So you gotta kind of pull yourself away from the whole image of what you think a producer might be, and if they're kind of sleazy, I think some of people think they are, but the producer is the person kind of running the show. You're not there on the day shooting, but without a producer, there's no movie. And there's a lot of technical stuff with funding that just has to happen, and it's Some people really love it, like I know Scott Lepp wants to be a producer, which is rare. But if you want to make your own stuff, you're going to be the producer, like it or not. And if you want to direct, a great way to get into it is be a producer and then hire yourself as the director. So it's just kind of an interesting way to think about it.
Well, and as we were saying earlier, that it's easier than ever to try to make something now, and that in some respects, what the great thing is that now, if you've got a voice, if you've got something to say that's unique, that's different, that's special, then there's a way for it to get out in a way that it couldn't before, when you had to try to convince a bunch of funders or anything like that. Actually, that's something else we can maybe get into, is the whole Kickstarter, not necessarily just Kickstarter, the crowdfunding idea that now people can actually, that your audience can, assuming you've built a relationship with them, can actually say, we already trust you, let us help you make something, which is actually kind of a cool thing too.
I just want to jump on Justin's point there about watching movies, watching television, and that sort of thing. I think that is important, and I'm sure none of us really have an issue with that, because I'm sure that's what we do and that's why we're here. But the important thing is to learn what to take from it and how to apply it, and then not necessarily just story, but what is it that makes it successful, and why do you want to keep watching it? And for me, the best, most recent example is Sons of Anarchy, which I just started watching at the beginning of this year. It's not really my thing. It's not really, the whole biker gang thing, but it has such a great hook that you want to keep coming back to it. And so then that's something that I wanted to apply to some of the stuff that I was writing, is a way to make it so that when the episode ends, and we're speaking TV here, but when the episode ends, that people just want more. And so that's one of the things that I've learned from watching that show, and I think it's important to look for those types of things, and each show that you watch and love has that sort of hook to it, other than just the content. So I'm wondering, maybe we should get some questions now, or Justin, did you want
to add on to your point, just very quickly, when I said watch things and watch as much as you can actually, the way I look at it is my video collection, both the special features and the DVDs, are like a film school, and you can really take advantage of that. And like when I was 15 or 16, first getting interested in film and all that sort of thing, I used to watch movies, both good and bad, with a notepad in front of me, and I'd time out the cuts. Okay, how frequent do the cuts happen? Okay, how is this effective? How is this not effective? So, and watch both good and bad movies. If you hear a movie is the worst movie in the world, don't avoid it. Watch it and try and figure out why everyone thinks it's the worst movie in the world. And there are gems that people say are the worst movie ever that the masses might hate, but it might actually be good for certain reasons. There's a terrible movie with Clint Howard in it called Ice Cream Man. But inside that movie, there's an 8-minute long tracking shot through an insane asylum that is brilliantly pulled off, and nobody's seen the bloody thing. So there are things to learn from every film, and going in and watching these things, and watching special features especially, which are a dying thing now. There's far less special features on most releases, but watch all that stuff. Just learn. I mean, that's the first step to anything, really. I mean, you can get into all the grant applications and all the tech, because you can drop $600 on a really good DSLR now, and some lenses, and make whatever the hell you want to. But until you know the language of film and how things are put together, and not even the textbook language, just what works, what doesn't, you're not really going to be making good film anyway. You're just going to be throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks.
That's actually a point I'd like to jump onto as well, because I find that the same, as I was saying, like anybody can make a film these days, but the problem is that anybody can make a film these days. And that sounds kind of harsh, but I think what it means is that when you're making something, you are your own, you have to be your own best or worst critic. You have to kind of filter through all the stuff that you might do that is going to cause the same audience which you would be if you weren't making that film to disengage.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, I think you have to start with why you're making a movie in the first place. If you're doing it for yourself, then maybe the filter doesn't need to be as strong, but for the most part, people are making a movie for an audience. So treat your audience right, and just because doing something would be cool isn't necessarily a good reason to do it. So really ask yourself about the choices that you're making, and would your audience agree with those choices? Because me personally, I make it for an audience, but art films are not really my forte, so.
So I'm gonna we're gonna do Q&A for the internet folks, and if that needs to get set up, let's do that. But I'll start it off with the first question. What's the like something really inspiring that you guys have watched or seen or heard, or is there anything in your life recently that has reminded you like, yeah, that's why I want to be a filmmaker or anything like that?
That's a tough question to answer. Like we're just gonna name titles of movies and stuff.
Shot from a movie nobody's seen.
Okay, well, this is actually a really tough one. I just watched so much stuff. It's, but really, what inspires me isn't exactly a specific film. It's that there's this new guard now in Canada of filmmakers like these guys and like myself, and there's tons of them in Toronto. There's tons of them in Calgary. People who aren't, especially in Canada, aren't pursuing telefilm and aren't pursuing grant money and are doing it themselves and putting together 40 grand in bank loans or whatever and making like The Collapse, the movie that I got sold in 12 countries. I made for 40 grand up front, and we made, I guess I can say this now, gross we made about $500,000. So I mean, I don't get to see all that money, but it's definitely possible to just like put together 50 grand, make a feature film, and actually get it seen by a lot of people. Because if the talent's there, and if you put together the right film, and the idea is somewhat fresh, but it doesn't even have to be fresh, because you make a zombie movie now, and everybody fucking wants to buy it. But oh yeah, sorry internet for swearing. Anyway, which is where swear words live. But what inspires me isn't so much individual films, because I can name films all day, but it's seeing these younger people, or even people like you could be 50 and still start your career. Like a lot of bigger directors don't get bigger until they're like in their 40s, 50s, 60s anyway, right? So it's the people that go, you know what, screw it, I'm not going to wait for the money to roll in. I know how to put together a small amount of money. I know how to get the gear. I have friends. But don't cast them. Don't cast your friends. Unless they're really good actors, don't cast your friends. That's the first mistake most budding filmmakers make. Do casting sessions. It costs like $50 to rent a casting room. Craigslist is free, and you can get people to come out and actually audition for your film, and it'll make it from here to like here, and that almost instantly. So just the people that do things on their own, that that really just take the bull by the horns and go, okay, you know what? I'm going to start my career on my own terms. That's what inspires me.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot the same as Justin. I love getting out and watching the things that people have done in the local community. And one good example is Greg Jeffs and Spencer Estabrooks and their short film, The Hunt, that screened here on, was it Friday? And that's a great example of what can be done on a fairly small budget, but the incredible production quality that they got. And they're likely to see more come from that film that they did. And another example is Kurt Harder, a young director here in Calgary, a very young director who scraped together a bunch of money and got a bunch of grants and did a feature film. And now that kid works every day doing music videos and directing this and that. And
in Kenya, apparently.
Yeah, all over the world. It's nuts, and that's the kind of stuff I love, and I love just seeking out the local work that people have done to watch, and then it really, outside of your day job, gives you something to shoot for, something to work for.
Sorry, just to add to that point, don't feel like you're above like work-a-day type film jobs, like corporate work and stuff like that. If it pays the bills and you get to practice your craft, and you're shooting like an IAMS frigging promotional campaign where somebody's talking about how good dog food is to their clients, so what? At least you're using the camera, you're learning how to keep things in focus, you're recording sound, and you're being paid to do it. So don't feel like I'm a filmmaker and I'm above all of this whatever work. If they're willing to hire you for your services and your talent, let them. There's no reason not to. You're not selling out when you don't have you don't have like this high artistic career already to sell out from. You're just paying your bills, and maybe you can take the money you made from a corporate gig or a music. That's how I got started: corporate music videos, commercials, etc. I took that money and filtered it back into my own projects, and it got me where I am at this moment. So don't feel you're above certain things just because. But you don't have to put your name on these things either, right? So it's not Justin McConnell's IAMS commercial. It's an IAMS commercial or whatever it happens to be.
Kill for an IAMS commercial. Let's do it with the audience. And again, if anybody's actually watching on the internet, you can ask us a question at Full Swing Prod on Twitter. Who's up? Sorry, I thought the volunteers might have somebody. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Have you, any of you have dealt with one of those guys that are one army that I want to do shooting camera directly, I want to do directly, I want to do this, I want to do that. They try to tap all of those at the same time, one in the project.
So the question, let's make sure everybody gets on mic for the questions, but the question's, have we ever met somebody who wants to be like a all-in-one show, kind of do everything? Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think we all want to be.
Well, the reality is this, okay? There used to be this old saying where you are decent at some disciplines, but the master of none, where basically if you think you can do everything, you're going to be really not great at a lot of things and not an expert at one thing. But now with the cheaper tech and the fact that so many people are making things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, if you've got the talent and you know how to edit and you know how to shoot and you know how to direct, and it may be the only way you're going to be able to get something done, there's nothing wrong with it. But the people that walk out and egotistically go, yes, I am a one-man show, yeah, you run into those people all the time and they don't last very long. They end up, their ego kills their career. And so it's a balance. Yes, you can do it all yourself, but only if you have to. It's a team really does make a better film than one guy usually, even if it's just somebody advising you.
And because filmmaking is such a collaborative process, when you've got one person doing it all, they're not working with a team and they're not building relationships. And this is an industry of relationships. If you're not building them and if you're thinking that you're the one-man show, then you're going to be a one-man show forever. And that doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me.
Sorry. I just had a question. I'm from a very small town, but I'm a screenwriter. So how does someone like me, who writes and writes and writes, not hook up, you know what I mean, with a producer, yeah, not the casting couch thing, with the producer to get something made? Like, I'm like, 12 hours away.
Scott Lepp, I feel like you could speak to that pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I am from a small town as well, but obviously I live here now. You got to get on the message boards. Calgary Society of Independent Filmmakers has a great one. If you have any, I mean, there's not necessarily producers fishing for material there, but you can say you have stuff and look for somebody. I would say that this is another good spot where, you could email any of us. We have our contact information on a sheet up here. I know we're always looking for stories, but coming out to things like this, coming out to any sort of networking events is the best way to do it. It's the best way to get involved. And I mean, it's really a lot nicer if you know somebody who has an in the industry, but maybe you can use us for something like that. Or, but yeah, I would definitely tap into the message board, the csif.org. Is that what a message board there? That's going to get you a good start, I'd say. Anybody else want to jump on that one?
Listen, the worst thing anybody's ever going to tell you is fuck off. In this business, no doesn't mean no, no means later or maybe or I'm too busy. Fuck off means fuck off. So if that happens, you pick yourself up and you just go to the next person. But in my experience, I mean, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've gotten to know a lot of people that when I was a kid, if I knew that I was friends with these people at this point, I would have been like, you're kidding me. But all I did was I approached them and they liked what I had to offer, or I talked to them on a certain level, and that's all it took. You approach, you talk to people. Networking is everything, and relationships are everything in this game. So even if you're in a small town, the internet still exists. Go on Twitter, build a following, talk to people, reach out to your favorite writer, whatever it happens to be. They may answer back. But on the other side of that coin, don't be a pest. You kind of have to know when to pull back the reins and go, okay, they don't really want to talk right now. This person isn't really open to it. And you'll kind of get a feel for who is open to new people and who likes to be like a mentor and who, really doesn't want to be bothered. And it'll take a bit of time and experimentation to figure that out. But there are really good people out there. And I mean high up, really good people that will help you. It's just, sometimes it takes time and sometimes it takes a lot of time, and especially to build like a relationship, like a background, like a body of work, respect, that sort of thing. That takes time too, but just keep at it, and eventually somebody will be around that can help you. And don't be afraid to walk up to anybody like any of us or any of these cons, like they said. It's good. We're open to talk to people. That's why we're here.
Actually, just to jump in on that too, is that talking about networks, is that if you're from a small town, you probably have a network, like a real life physical network of people around you, that it's also possible that you could take a stab at produce a few shorts of your work, and so then people are having a chance to not read your scripts, but hear your words. So that's another idea too. And having a close network of people around you physically means that you can probably draw on those relationships and those favors even easier than in a larger center like Calgary.
I would argue that being 12 hours away, it's probably easiest as a screenwriter than it would be for anything else. I mean, if you're a cinematographer, you need access to crew and you need access to cameras. And it might be tricky in a small town. But if you're a writer, you have access to the internet, and that's really all you need. So you're in pretty good shape. And the internet is a great resource, and there's screenwriting competitions. So finish a script. That's first and foremost. Finish something. It doesn't have to be perfect. And of course, the rule is that great screenplays are never finished. They're just abandoned. So finish it, copyright it, which is really just putting a C and a circle on it. You don't actually need to go through a process to copyright. And then register it with the Writers Guild.
You're going to want to, for $20, you can go to the Writers Guild of America, not Writers Guild of Canada, sorry. It costs $20 to go to the Writers Guild of America website and enter your script and get a Writers Guild of America number. Once you've got that on your script, nobody's going to mess with you. Nobody's going to steal your idea because you're registered with the WGA, and there's an entire guild. You don't even have to be a member. You pay $20 with a credit card, you submit a PDF of your script. It's wgaregistry.org or something like that. And you put that number on every script you send out, and nobody's going to mess with you. It's cheap. Do it. Even if you write a 6-page treatment, spend $20 before you start sending it to anybody. It's really worth it because ideas do get. You want to know why there's so many remakes right now? Remakes and reboots and adaptations of novels and stuff? Because nobody can sue for existing material. No farmer in the middle of nowhere can go, you know what, I came up with that idea 5 years ago for a book that's existed for 20 years. That's why there's so many at this point. It's an established thing, and there's no litigation with it. An original script is a harder thing to get into production. So copyright everything.
Another way just to get eyeballs, do you have a blog? Okay.
You're ahead of the game.
Yeah, in that case, networking, and yeah, definitely that CSIF and those sorts of things.
Want to make sure we get through as many questions as we can. Anybody else? Awesome.
Yeah. What kind of content do each one of you guys create, and who do you market to?
Yeah, sure.
So the question was, what kind of content do you guys, each of us, create, and who do we market to? And for myself, it took a little while to figure that out for me because I had this grand illusion of making the greatest dramatic film ever or whatever, something like that. But the bottom line is you need to write to what you know, and so that's what I've turned to. So right now, I'm a sports guy. So I have a sports project, an animated sports series, and I spent a lot of time. I'm from southern Alberta, so naturally I worked in the oil field, and so that's my other thing is another television series based on it's an oil field series. So that's the kind of stuff I create. Plus, I work in the television industry and have grown to love that even more than films. So that's strictly where I concentrate now, and that's all big thinking, and I haven't got a chance to market that, but to test my market, I go out, for example, the CBC released a hockey animated series, a Christmas special, so I followed the ratings of that, and sent it to a bunch of people that I know to test it on their kids to see what they thought, and they all loved it. So here I'm thinking I'm sitting on a gold mine, just having trouble getting it made, but that's it for me.
Let's see, just to rephrase it again, it's what kind of stuff do we create and who do we market to? The stuff that I create is all, somebody had to actually tell me this once because I didn't actually realize it myself, but it goes, all your stuff is idea-based. There's a concept somewhere. There's a question or like a philosophy, or there's something to chew on that's conceptual. And then added to that is usually a character that's having some kind of problem, so that it's not just philosophy. But so that's the kind of stuff that I like to do, and I think the people my market would be like the people who want to dig into ideas, basically sci-fi fans, Twilight, Outer Limits kind of stuff. Not Twilight the movie.
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. There we go. Dope. But yeah, so that kind of thing. Yeah. Currently, it's up in the air. I'm just actually working the ideas through, and then I'm going to see what venue or what vehicle seems best for those ideas.
For us, a lot of our content has been driven by a local screenwriter that we partnered with a few years ago named Jason Long, and he's a comedy writer. So most of our stuff lately has been comedy short films and comedy web series. But he writes, I think, for a bit of an older audience than we are, so a lot of our marketing goes to those people. I would say 35 to 45 demographics. For us personally, when we write, I think we're both dramatic writers, I would argue. And just to kind of reiterate what Scott Lepp said, if you write what you know, it's going to be a project that you're passionate about, and you're going to find a niche, and that's the audience you want to market to. So personally, I think finding the niche is the best thing you can do, and then just market to those people.
Yeah, I mean, I work with Scott, so mostly what he said is applies to me. But I'm also at kind of a weird time, and I'm trying to pay as close attention to the web as I can, and find out what I have that same question, like what's the best content to kind of create, and so I'm just trying to pay attention right now and see if I can tailor something niche-wise to the right audience.
I'm primarily a horror nut, but I also have a few other sides to what I do. Like I do documentary production, mostly feature films across the board. But when it comes to documentaries, like Skull World is I guess would be marketed at the geek, I guess LARPing fringe audience crowd. I've worked in the music industry for a while, so I've marketed towards them. But when it comes to horror, one of the reasons I love it, I mean, I grew up watching that stuff and horror-related stuff, but more than almost any other genre, like you're not going to find like a drama convention much, but you'll find horror conventions everywhere. There's horror websites everywhere. They're a very vocal, very like family-like crowd to market to, and if you can catch the ear of those people, you can really, like, horror is a good place for a director to start, simply because there's already a very rabid fan base for almost anything that gets made. So that's one of the reasons I'm sticking to it. But within horror, I also like to play into comedy and drama and all that sort of thing. And I mean, I've got a straight up drama script too that nobody's going to fund yet, but but eventually, So, but mostly feature films, a little bit of TV. We're developing a web series. You kind of have to be transmedia now. You have to. That's an important point too. Everything is changing so much. Feature films still make money, but they're tougher to get off the ground. Short films, you can make some of your money back. There are ways to make, you can get grants, you can sell to TV and stuff like that. Web series are tough to make money on, but they're becoming more and more popular. So you have to be ready to kind of we're developing a comic book too. You have to be ready to kind of hit everything, because nobody really knows what the next thing that is going to take off is, and you need to be on the forefront of as much as you can if you want to be really successful, because everything is changing so quickly.
So if you're thinking about a great idea, what we're here to do primarily is help you guys get your work off the ground. So if there's something that's preventing you right now from getting your project made, think about that and ask us a question about that. We'd love to help. We've probably been there. We've got a question right over here.
Yeah, I was just wondering what you said about like going into horror. I'm like a big fan of superhero stuff too, and obviously that's something that's
another
big now.
niche. Yep.
Yeah, I'm wondering like how do you go about like if you want to take an established character, that obviously there's a lot of.
Well, if you take an established character, you can go one of two ways. You can do fan fiction type stuff, like people, there was that Wonder Woman short that came out a little while ago that the guy made. But the thing you got to be careful with there is you may get noticed by someone doing something like that, or you may get sued. It goes either way, right? If you want to do something with an established character, the best thing you can do is actually write a spec and approach the actual creators. I mean, the internet has opened everything. Okay, who here is a member of IMDb Pro? Anybody? Okay, well, one guy. And I know him. So for $15 a month, IMDb Pro gives you the contact info for everybody's agents, everybody's managers, everybody's lawyers, everybody's reps, direct contact info, email addresses, phone numbers. It's not like before where you had to know a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy. Yes, it's a cold call, but does it matter to you if they like tell you, no, we don't care, you know? At least you've talked to them, right? At least you have gone out and made an active, like, okay, look, I want to make something like, I mean, larger characters like the Hulk and stuff, you're going to have a lot of trouble working on because, you know, they're huge. But if you find like a dark horse character that like Ghost or something that nobody has ever messed, I mean, I don't know who'd want to make a Ghost movie, but you know, who that nobody's messed with or nobody's done anything, and you have a really good idea, there's nothing stopping you from going to the creator and going this, especially the original creators, like the actual authors and the artists and stuff, going to them and saying, I got this great angle, would you like to hear about it? Like, just go straight to them. There's not, most of them have blogs, most of them are on Facebook, most of them are on Twitter. There's nothing stopping you from trying to say hi to them. Nothing at all.
Okay, we had a question right down here.
Can anyone speak about sponsorship? Something that we're running into right now is we had a business investment person, saw our script, saw everything, and was like, oh my God, this is amazing, it has to be done. And now we've got companies jumping on board going, can you try to get our product on? Can you try to do this? And there's people on our team going, are we going to lose the integrity of our creativity with some of these people who want to work with us?
Do you guys?
Yeah, well, I'll start. Yeah, sponsorship, I think is great. I'm absolutely a fan of sponsorship, and yeah, it definitely is a concern about compromising the integrity of the creative piece. And are you going to lose fans because, oh my God, this is just a Pepsi commercial disguised as a comedy? Definitely something to keep in mind as you're doing it, but I think if it's done well and if it's subtle enough that you're getting the brand out there in a way that they're satisfied with, but you're also keeping your audience sort of, people understand that sponsorship is a thing. You're not hiding it. I mean, you're not hiding the fact that this is branded Expo, water bottle for the cameras, for the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo, this 2013. People know, people understand that's a thing, right? And I don't think it's anything to be afraid of.
Yeah, you can go.
Well, and I think this is going to be a weird statement to make, so follow me through here. But somebody once said about porn that the way to define it is that I can't give you a definition of what porn is, but I know it when I see it. Yeah. So I think sponsorship and selling out is maybe kind of a similar thing in terms of artistic integrity. Like if you're looking at your work and like if a gigantic van that says Coca-Cola parks in front of your main character, blocking him, you know, or her, whatever, that probably sounds like selling out. But I mean, if it's a bottle with the Calgary Expo turned outwards, then that's not necessarily. If the real question is it ruining the shot? Is it ruining the story? Is it ruining the character? Yeah. You know, if it's not doing any of those and it's helping you get it made, plus, you know. So.
Is there anyone in the room drinking a can of Coke right now? Because one thing I've noticed about a lot of sponsorship is that, you know, it works if it's actually naturally within our world. Okay, that's funny. It works if it's actually within our world, but if it's something that sticks out like a sore thumb, like or it's like Mac and Me, where they have a giant dance sequence in a McDonald's, and Coke actually heals the aliens at the end, that's a problem. But that was a movie paid for by McDonald's and Coke. I love that. Yeah, with the wheelchair kid. No, anyway, sorry. Yes, but there's actually a company in LA called Brand in Advertising. You can approach them through their website, and what they're really good at is finding you money and ways to hide products in your projects, where you can basically go to them and say, a car company will be like, well, what car does the lead guy drive? And that's the extent of the entire advertising, and they'll give you 50 grand. Like, that's important to know. That type of advertising, like for example 24, did you ever notice that all the terrorists use PCs and all the good guys use Macs? Because it's true, and they plan that out. So Mac put in a lot of money. That's kind of the way. Nobody noticed it. Very few people noticed it. But there is a way to hide it, and it's just when somebody, like when a hero or whatever is holding a giant bag of, or like he's drying off his wounds with a big roll of Bounty, and the friggin' logo is there. You know, that's when you've got a problem. But just do it tastefully, and if somebody's going to hand you money, you know, and it's the thing that's getting your thing made, why not? I mean, I'm not saying sell out, but you know, you got to get your stuff off the ground, and it's sometimes worth it.
Yeah, I think Justin is exactly right there. Is the issue for you that you have too many? That it's like You are like legitimately concerned that it's going to be totally branded?
Can I say without getting in trouble? For example, there's one futuristic product that would work because we're doing sci-fi, but he's got connections with the oil patch, and half of the people in our group are all like environmental hippies and want to kind of put that into the film, and there's a lot of potential money we could get from the oil patch, but then people are going, are we supporting the oil patch? And forgive me, I'm going, hey, it's money.
That's a true integrity question.
But it is,
Yeah.
it is an interesting question because, I mean, on one side, we might be able to force them to do some environmental work, and on the other, everybody's going, well, you're making the oil company look like good guys. So I'm all for making them do good things, right? Sorry.
No, sorry, just to jump in on that, because like I was mentioning earlier that I also do a lot of produced theater as well, and the theater industry runs on like not just it runs on tickets, donations, and grants. Those are the three kind of, so like partially it's the audience, partially it's grants from the government, but then donations, and a big part of it is corporations, many of which include oil. So I wouldn't say the theater industry runs on oil, but the other thing I would also say is that the oil industry, any of the corporations donating to the companies are never actually mandating change to the content that I've seen. So if they're not mandating change to your content, then I would say, like, as long as the message gets out, if there's an environmental message within the story, then, and if they're saying, like, if they don't care about that, then all the better. It's irony,
Yeah, I guess that's kind of how I feel. Like, they're giving us money, they're letting us do this, and I think that's a win.
Yeah, if you just got to find a way to hide it. Ideally, you get something like Coke, where your character can just be holding a can of Coke. Or last year in Heartland, we had McCafe Coffee as a sponsor, and it became a challenge. But trying to find ways to meet their criteria without being invasive on the story was a challenge. But we got there, and it's definitely worth it. It's especially if you can get your project made.
And also, if it's a brand you actually like, for example, My Bloody Valentine, the original from the early 80s, the reason that Moosehead, the beer, ended up in the northern U.S. was because all the characters drink Moosehead in that movie, and they supplied the cast and crew with cases of Moosehead. That was the entire sponsorship. They just gave the cast and crew beer the entire shoot. But, the cast and crew wanted beer, so it worked both ways. I mean, if you like the product, you might be able to help them out. So it goes both ways. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a sweet spot there, and I'm sure you can find it. Who's next? Yes, sir.
I just want some more clarity on that. You said there was a company down in the U.S. that helped. What was the name of that again?
It's called Brand in Advertising.
Brand in.
They okay. Here's, I guess. Does anyone know what AFM is? The American Film Market. Okay, you should. Once you get more serious about producing, it's worth the trip to LA to buy a badge, to go to AFM and really see what the market is out there, to see how many thousands of films are out there that you've never heard of that are all trying to get sold. But to your point, brand and advertising, when I first met them, was at AFM. They have a big booth there, and they'll try and court you as soon as you walk up to the booth, like, you're damn right, we want to work with you. We want to work with everyone, because they represent every big company in the bloody world, right? They're all their clients. So brand in advertising.
Have you guys worked with them?
Pardon?
Have you worked with them?
I've had a lot of meetings with them about the next film, or at least talk to them anyway. Again, for me, it's sort of like her question too. It's all about finding the balance between art and commerce, I guess. If I could find the money elsewhere, I will. But this is going out live to the internet, isn't it? But yeah, no, it's not a bad thing. Anyway, you should talk to them if you want to figure out a way to get extra. Anyway.
Anybody else? Yeah, okay, let's.
Sorry, another writing question. So, okay, so I'm from a small town, I'm from far away. What about an internship on a TV show, like Heartland or something, where you could write and do some things like that? How do you get a job like that? How do you get a 2-week gig doing something like that?
Yeah, it is possible. We had people come in last year actually doing just that. Find out who the production companies are that own the show, and you can contact them. And if you are going to do that, you know, phone and talk to the assistant or the secretary or whatever, and make friends with them, and try to find an in with somebody somewhere where they'll listen to you and just offer your services, especially for free. Because, yeah, the show, you know, it has a huge multi-million-dollar budget, but you'd be surprised. We're always looking for help for free. So that's one way. Finding out who is the head writer and going Justin's route through IMDb Pro and offering yourself that way, it is another way. But you just make sure you have material ready to send and ready to support, you know, your attempt.
I hate to be a downer, but I know a guy with a couple credits who couldn't even get that done. So, you know, it's worth a shot, but it's a long shot. 5 minutes left. Let's try to get in as many questions as we can. Anybody? Nick McQuick.
I have a question about working on projects with a production group, and it just sort of sitting in a stagnant pond of post-production. How long does that usually take, or is that something you approach the producers with, or?
It can be hell for sure. Yeah, and it absolutely depends on the kind of realities of the project. If you have, maybe you're stuck with money. You know, sometimes you need a lot of money to finish a movie. When it comes to color grading, that's something that a lot of people don't forget that in your budget, because you get to kind of a finished point and you're like, well, it looks kind of funny and it would be great to do a color grade, which would make it look more professional, and that's fucking expensive. That's like mind-blowingly expensive. Yeah. Oh, well, please share. Yeah, so I mean, it all depends on the film, basically. If there's anybody else? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, when it comes to put together your crew to make your film, especially if it's a low budget, well, very low budget film, how do you tackle that kind of task? Do you find as little people that can multitask, or you try to find people that want to do it for free, or you say don't cast friends, but you bring your friends in for that?
I found when you're working on a low budget, the best thing you can do is have the most contained crew as possible. Like, you're going to need certain people. You're going to need your makeup. You're going to need whatever. But you don't need a third assistant camera on a movie that costs 20 grand. You don't need, like, you know, I shot an entire feature documentary with basically myself and 2 other people, and you know, or you can make a short film. You know, keep your crew controlled on a low budget is the best way to put it, because the more people you have on set, the slower it's going to go, and the more people you're going to have to talk to all the time and all that crap.
And that's why, to speak to it again, this is why this is a business of relationships. Because if you have a network of people that you know and that are kind of at the same level as you, because I mean, we're talking about 20,000, but let's maybe talk about $1,000 or $2,000. All these people are going to have to work for free. Feed them well, but they're going to be working for free. So if you can find people that are sort of at the same level as you, and that's why networking is so important, they're trying to build their portfolio as well, and they're trying to get on crews as well, and sort of, you know, they're looking for internships. There are people out there, lots, who don't know how to get in, and you can find them.
It took me years to build a independent crew that I trust. Like, years. You end up losing people, gaining people. Some people screw you over. Like, again, it's a business of relationships. Yeah.
And that's why Matt and I work together, because he's the only guy that I don't hate. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, then you're going to have to find another one. Another one. Yeah.
Okay, we're wrapping it up. I just wanted to mention something quick. If you go online and you're looking for more information about production insurance and all that sort of thing, IMDb Pro, I actually set up, last year I did this panel, or a panel similar here, and I set up a page for you guys called, it's www.unstableground.net/horror. And I know it says horror, but it works for everyone. It's a giant resource of information, a wealth of information. That's unstableground.net/horror. Go there. You'll get a lot of questions answered.
And just want to speak to a last thing. We printed off some producer cheat sheets for our panel last year. We did a bit of an overrun, so we have some left over. Great local resources, our contact info, some books you might want to check out, application deadlines. So it says 2012 on it, but most of the info is
Still very valuable, yeah, absolutely.
So if we've only got like 14, so should be one for everyone. Yeah, so come pick it up if you want.
You guys want to say anything? I just want to wrap it up by saying thank you so much for coming, and thank you to all the volunteers. This is such a great event, and they do such a great job. Yeah, let's give them a quick clap. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, guys. And I just want to plug Nick McQuick is in the audience today. He's going to be in this room at 4:30. Come see his stand-up show. He's got a couple friends with him. It's going to be good. And yeah, check us out online. All that info's there. Come up here. And thanks for coming out, guys. Appreciate it.
Everybody exit out the side doors, please. Grab a sheet.